There are times I wonder if I'm really alone. There are times I wonder if I'm true. There are times when I feel alone in a full room. There are times I feel alone with you.
My name is Jane. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
My name is Arden. My pronouns are they, them, theirs.
I'm a demigirl. I identify both as a woman and as non-binary.
My gender identity. Mostly genderqueer. My journey has taken me to allow myself to be more masculine and like identify maybe more as like a genderqueer trans boy.
Relationships and sex and gender. Oh god.
I mean, I tend to like more feminine people, but I don't like to gender them, so sexuality is kind of weird because it kind of hinges on that. I mostly date women. Feminine side of the gender spectrum, I suppose.
Dating's really been a minefield. I've been sexually assaulted multiple times by cis women, trans men. Part of why I have a no men rule now. Casually dating a straight woman for a second. That was a really bad idea.
I've always dated women who identify as bisexual or pansexual. I guess it validates me in my gender because they don't treat me like a woman. If they did, I wouldn't date them.
I'll feel lonely and then I'll, get into a more slutty phase or whatever, and then people taking advantage of me, retreating, recovering from those experiences, getting lonely, wash, rinse, repeat. Recently, I have been having a lot better experiences. I think the more comfortable and confident I am with myself, it's a little easier for me to take a second, step back, get a read on a person.
I'm still very queer visibly, which I think is a good thing. Sometimes it causes me anxiety because then people are just like, those are two women together. Maybe one day if I ever pass, I'll be like, oh, I missed that.
My girlfriend, there's been times that we've been together and I've just started crying because I didn't really expect that I could have a relationship that feels as healthy as it does. I've been able to talk to her about my history of sexual assault, and she's been very respectful of that and very delicate with me when we are being intimate together. I'm still blown away by it. I've had emotionally abusive relationships. Definitely feel like this is a sentiment I hear from trans women fairly often. I never thought I could find someone who was actually good for me. I never thought I would find anyone who would actually love me and treat me well. I'm glad to be proven wrong.
It took me a month to write this letter to my mom that was 2 pages. It wasn't that long, but I would write 3 sentences and then just bawl, and then I would just be like, okay, I'm just gonna take a break from that, and it wasn't an email, so I sent it to her. Within 5 minutes I got a phone call, and I was like, there's no way I'm answering that. You did not hear what I had to say. It took you that long to read it. There's no way.
When I first came out to my parents, it was a very, very rough 6 months. I came out to my mom first, and the first thing she said to me was that I was depressed and needed to go to therapy. After coming out, there was definitely this very real struggle between my parents and I of this pushback of them kind of trying to not accept what was happening, and me also being very not understanding of the fact that this was a big leap for them, and it's not gonna be something that they're gonna adjust to super well, super fast.
I have come out a few times. I came out in high school as a lesbian, and that didn't go very well. She cried about it and blamed my father for leaving. Just kind of the same thing, and I was like, oh, this is all because of your dad. No. It's taken about 2 years, and I've heard her use Arden at least a few times, and I'm like, yes. She doesn't use my pronouns whatsoever, and she just says that it's because of the way that she was raised and educated, and she just can't understand it. We don't talk very much at all anymore.
My older brother and his wife, they're both really amazing. My sister-in-law was actually the first person in my family I ever came out to as a woman. I've definitely had to kind of construct my own chosen family around me, make up for some of the some of the losses I kind of felt in that area of my life.
My dad, we've had this like really weird relationship. I mean, like he was my best friend growing up and then got into really bad drugs and stuff, and so then I didn't see him for like a decade. He came back around when I was about 21 and I didn't trust him. I still kind of don't. But he's been like, since then, he's been sort of trying to be there.
Talking about dysphoria is funny because I was never like trained to have words to describe these feelings or anything.
I mean, I had dysphoria at puberty. I just didn't know what to call it.
I can like tell very clearly like how it makes me feel, but then like translating that into words has always been difficult.
It was just sort of like, what's happening? That's not right. And I legitimately was like, what's going on? My mom had to like explain to me a few times. I'm like, no, what's going on?
It's a day-to-day thing. There's days that are better than others. Becoming more comfortable with the non-binary side of my identity has helped me to overcome some of those feelings.
I'm just constantly aware. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I really miss thinking about other stuff. I used to like have all these other thoughts, and now I'm just like, everything's gendered, and I have all this anxiety all the time. And some days I'm just like, I can't leave the house. I can't leave the house without binding. There's no way. No way in hell. Not gonna happen. So now I'm like, oh, well, what does that mean for my whole life? Like, that's not gonna be okay. There's like some serious medical problems that I've even been noticing that's happening because it's been a couple years. So I'm solid in knowing that, like, I'm really dysphoric about my chest. You know, I wasn't on HRT enough to like stop bleeding, and so that time is the worst. It's just like crippling.
There will still be like just some days when I'll wake up and like I might not have shaved for a couple days, so I'm feeling stubbly or whatever, and I just get frustrated or definitely add to my depression.
I've been trying to tease apart physical and social dysphoria because it's really hard to tell the difference when they misuse pronouns. If they use like she, her pronouns, it's like my gender identity doesn't exist. They think it's like some kind of like timeline or something. It's like going from this to this and that's it. You know, it's like polar opposites instead of some kind of web of people and expression. And they think that it's just not that big of a jump. And so it's not like they're doing anything wrong. I really want to use they, them, their pronouns. You need to respect me, and they just don't understand. And we live in a world that is, the binary is like so strong. Like swimming out of the current is basically impossible.
A lot of times I feel like my dysphoria is very societal. I would be more or less okay moving around the world as like a bearded woman or whatever if that wasn't looked down upon, something that's been played as a joke so much in society. A lot of times there's this disconnect between like how I view myself and then how the world views me. It causes a lot of cognitive dissonance.
I'm less uncomfortable with being misgendered towards the male side. And so I'm like trying to allow myself to explore that and like giving myself permission to do it. That's like where I am in my journey now. The anxiety for me lies when people do gender me that way and then they like go back and like, oh, I'm so sorry, and they get really apologetic that they like made some mistake, and I'm like, no, now you're making the mistake. Am I anxious because they're misgendering me, or am I anxious because of what they're going to react to that misgendering? And I'm finally figuring out that it's the latter.
Sometimes the days where I'm feeling more feminine are the days where I'm having more dysphoric feelings. Those are definitely the days where I'll like focus a lot of time on just doing my makeup or like taking a long bath, reading a book while I'm doing that. Something that like really puts me like in connection with my body. Like shaving body hair, it's like kind of like a really simple day-to-day way for me to like stay in connection with my body. Shaving my legs, shaving my chest, shaving my arms occasionally because I like being all soft and smooth. Just knowing like every inch of it and every like curve and crevice. It's my body and I'm taking care of it in those moments, and it just makes me feel at peace.
It's really hard when everybody thinks that their opinion matters about your gender. It's like it affects them or something, or it like really affects other people. They're like, well, but I've always known you as this, and there's no way. That's just too much work for me. I'm like, okay, is it? It's work for you. I'm sure it is. I mean, I know there's habits to break, for sure. There's definitely habits to break, but it's really hard when you have to fight every day to be seen, because I think people take that for granted.
I've had kind of a frustrating experience with HRT actually. I've been on HRT for about getting close to 3 years now, 2.5 right now about. The first 2 years I was on like a very low dosage. I was on a different testosterone blocker than I am now, and that was much less effective. Felt really like my physical changes had plateaued. That started to like really affect my dysphoria and kind of feeling like I was just really stuck with a body that I didn't want outside of medical procedures that are way too expensive for me to even think about right now. I went to the nurse practitioner in that office instead of the doctor, and she basically told me that there is a good portion of the medical community who deal with transgender people. They basically don't think that taking a slower transition will like produce a better physical effect. There's not really that much of a difference. She gave me a much higher dosage of hormones than was like safe for me to jump to at the time, but basically she gave me a rough guideline for like when to kind of like step up dosages and how long to wait. Felt a lot more like empowered and actually make my decisions about like my own body and my own health. And at this point in my life, I've gotten to know my body like fairly well, and I'm really like the best caretaker of it.
So I don't have too much experience with hormone replacement therapy. I stopped because my insurance ran out, and now I'm having a hell of a time trying to get OHP to approve me and trying to find a provider that's aware of trans-related healthcare. There's not many. I was on testosterone for like 3 months maybe. I was seeing a therapist at the time, and my goal with it then was more of an androgynous, so I took less. I took a lot less. It was like half the amount of time. So it was like very small little stint, but the feeling I had when I was on it, like I just want that back. And I don't really know how to describe it except that it felt, I was so grounded. And what I was going through in the time, I shouldn't have been grounded. Like I was going through a big breakup and like big life changes. And it made me think like maybe this is the wrong time to be doing this, but it was the one thing that I felt like totally grounded in. I got made fun of a lot growing up in elementary school because I wasn't conforming to like the idea of what a girl should be. Actually, I think harassment now is probably worse than it was just because like I'm an adult. And now adults do it. So in college, it was mostly I was just like a butch lesbian, and everyone knew it, and I was comfortable with that enough. Now it's hard because I live very much in between. Very, very hostile when people can't figure out. They get aggressive. They get mad. They're like angry because like you confuse them. They're like, am I attracted to you? Or like, how am I supposed to relate to you? It's like they don't know how to talk to you. It's like you're not a person or something. It's very scary. For a while, I was like, that's what I want. That is what I want. Like pronouns and language is just like hurled at me all the time. And I'm like, okay, well at least if everything is coming at me, I can probably deal with that a lot better. But I actually can't. I was like, no, this isn't actually. Because people get mad. And that's just like real every day. That's really scary and hard.
Street harassment has been a thing. I do live in a city that is like fairly progressive, whatever that means. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but it does happen. Some days I'll have people yelling at me like, nice ass, and then other days there are people yelling fag at me. I've definitely learned how to roll with it.
I've gotten harassed by TSA more than once. One of the male people who are gonna pat you down will be like mid-pat and realize that I was like assigned female at birth, and then got really aggressive. And I was like, just keep doing your job. Like, I'm fine with you doing this. Like, consent to you doing this. And he got just really uncomfortable and like pointed, like gestured back to the back part of the screen where people get like strip searched, and was just sort of like, you don't want me to take you back there. Like obey me, like go over here and let this woman pat you down.
Within the LGBTQ community, it's been a lot more subtle. I mean, I've been told that I take up too much space and I'm expressing my latent male privilege too much by other trans people, no less. In LGBTQ communities, there is a certain level of fetishization and sexualization, kind of fair game to like mildly sexually harass trans women under the guise of like being body positive and supportive or whatever, feeling like they have to score radical points by like flirting with a trans woman or whatever. On the extreme end of harassment in the queer community, there is a lack of understanding of like how to apply consent to your actual like interactions with people, and I've seen a lot of failures of consent, like in my own life and in others.
Within the queer community, I don't get harassed by people like the way that I feel I do outside of it. At least I think I'm misunderstood a lot. I have to explain myself all the time, which is kind of hard because it's supposed to be like my fam, and people are supposed to like embrace each other, and it's very gendered in the queer community even, which is tough. I guess my advice is to like trust yourself, know who you are, and don't let other people tell you who you are. Give yourself permission to like figure that out, and don't be afraid. Spend time with yourself and get to know what you like and how you want to relate to your body. Shed shame, like just shed it off. Because it's gonna come in like huge waves, and you're just gonna be like, I don't care, that's everyone else telling me that I should feel that way, but I don't have to feel that way. And like I'm above that, and that's important because that happens all the time. Like I'm supposed to relate to my body because I was assigned this way, and like it's like a whole big construct that's just ridiculous. So be true to you. Yeah.
Like to specifically talk to like the trans girls and trans femmes. Don't believe what anyone else says. Like, y'all are beautiful. Y'all are beautiful in your struggle. The world tries so hard to keep us down, and we're getting so much constant input that like we're not valid, we're not good enough, and you deserve the best. You deserve people who love you for you. You deserve people who treat you well. Don't settle for less than you are, because you're amazing.
You are enough of you.